Deshaun Elliott talking about Aaron Rodgers. Like, no, we don't want Aaron Rodgers. Or do we want Aaron Rodgers? We're going to take a little dive into that. Mike Tomlin, you know, at the end of the year, Mike Tomlin talked about change. And there's going to be some change with the Pittsburgh Steelers. When's this change coming? We're going to talk about it. Is it just more Mike Tomlin speak, or is there actual change that is coming? And then last but not least, we will talk about the old rumors about Trevor Lawrence. We'll get into that and whether I think it's a good thing, whether you think it's a good thing. We'll talk about all the craziness that's going on right now. So appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for showing up as always. Remember, if you want to help support the channel, you know how to do that. Get your rant, question, or comment up on the screen. Super chats are wide open. Memberships are also available. Make sure if you want to become a member with all types of crazy comments on Steelers Almighty members, make sure you sign up there. We appreciate you guys. Let's get into this. So, first things first, Deshaun Elliott. I like Deshaun Elliott. I think Deshaun Elliott is somebody that the Steelers need to look into the offseason at possibly giving a contract extension to. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I mean, some people might say it's premature. We don't necessarily need to do that. I'd like to keep him around for a little while if we can, but, we don't necessarily have to. I get it. But he played great for the Steelers this year. Played great. No ifs, ands, or buts. He was the best safety we had on the roster as far as play, and I like Deshaun Elliott. I also like that he tells the truth. He doesn't pull any punches. We saw it. His emotions just boil over after the Kansas City game, basically saying we can't have guys wide open, and came so close to calling out who the culprit was on why Travis Kelce, again, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play football, was running wide open on the field. So I like Deshaun Elliott. Well, he has come out, because there's, how the rumor mill is. It's everywhere. This guy's coming. That guy's coming. Aaron Rodgers not going back to the Jets. And Deshaun Elliott basically just came out and said, leave his ass in the retirement home. Personally, I'm 100% in agreement with it. I agree with it 1,000%. 1,000%. He won't help the Steelers. And let me tell you some of the reasons why. First off, I'll give you the grant you that he's better than Fields or Wilson. I'll give you that he's better than they are. I don't know by how much, but I'm going to give the grace of saying that he's a little bit better than what they are. Not athletically, because he can't move around at all. But throwing the football, reading a defense, getting the ball out of his hands, I'm going to give him that grace. But is it so much that you're going to have to deal with all the off-the-field stuff that comes with him? Like, for instance, they lost a game this year because he threw an interception, and maybe Mike Williams ran the wrong route. Maybe he didn't. But he literally threw him completely under the bus. Literally threw him under the bus. Oh, you got to be on the red line. That's a red line. Well, if he wasn't on the red line, then why'd you throw it? Like that. So as a court, he's not a leader. He is not a leader. Is that who we want to go get this old guy that's not a leader? I don't think we need that. You can say what you want about Russell Wilson. You can say that he's corny, whatever you want to say. But the guy at least tries to galvanize his team. You see it. Is it fake? Probably not. Can it be corny sometimes? Yeah, but sometimes leaders are corny. You got to say certain things to be able to galvanize your team, not go to the press and blame somebody, whether they were right or wrong, and blame them because of a mistake that you made. Well, it wasn't really my mistake. It was their mistake, and that's why I made it. Come on, man. Yeah, I just the problem is that you can't. That's not the leader that you need. That's not the leader that you need. Now, let me go back. Russell Wilson, y'all know my opinion on that. I'm out on that. I'm just bringing him up as an example of what a leader kind of looks like. Aaron Rodgers is not that. So, yeah, I just Wilson isn't the guy, but at least he's a leader of men that you could at least get behind. You're not going to be able to get behind the guy that's blaming players in the media. I mean, that ain't going to work. How's that going to play in the locker room? So, no. Then all the other stuff that he does. And I'm not talking about political stuff. I'm just talking about annoying, like not coming to mini camp. Well, I don't need to come to mini camp. No, I don't need to come. I'm going to go on some drug-induced trip to Egypt. That's going to play in a Mike Tomlin locker room? Come on, man. Come on. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So is Wilson and Fields, are they the answer? Maybe not. But I know for a fact Aaron Rodgers isn't. He's not going to help us. He's not. That's I mean, part of being a leader has to be somebody that people can gravitate to. Like, you know, and you don't have to be best friends with the guy, but you at least got to respect him. They're not going to respect him. You're throwing teams or players under the bus to the media. Nobody respects that. Nobody respects that. So that's the whole thing, is that Aaron Rodgers is not a fit in Pittsburgh. Let's just go the easy route. Let's not just bash them and or anything like that. We don't need to do that. We're better than that at Steelers Almighty, aren't we? As a family, collectively, we don't need to bash Aaron Rodgers. We can just say, hey, he's not a fit as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now, isn't that the nice thing to do? Isn't that the nice thing to say? Or we could go to Deshaun Elliott route and say, keep his ass in the retirement home. I will let you guys decide in the chat which one you guys want to do. Either one is fine with me. I'm happy with either one. I will follow your lead. Whatever you tell me is what I will do. Should we just be nice and say, hey, he's just not a good fit as a Pittsburgh Steeler? Or do we go down the road of leave his ass in the retirement home? First of all, I love the comment. Stephen A. Smith came out and look, whether you like Stephen A. Smith or not, he's on TV. He does what they want him to do. He's entertainment, yada, yada, yada. If he's not your cup of tea, fine. He is my cup of tea because I feel like I'm a loudmouth as well. But him coming out and saying that Deshaun Elliott isn't the guy that needs to say that, why the hell isn't he? That Mike Tomlin or TJ Watt needed to be the person to say, why? Deshaun Elliott doesn't play in the National Football League? Deshaun Elliott doesn't play for the Pittsburgh Steelers? What, because doesn't have Hall of Fame cachet, he can't have an opinion? He can't say anything in public if somebody asks him a question? Stop it. Stop it. Those are the same type of people that tell me, because I didn't play in the National Football League, that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to football. I don't know what I see, or tell you guys, well, you can't have an opinion on football because you didn't play in the National Football League. Nonsense. Nonsense. Deshaun Elliott can absolutely say what he wants to say. Should he have said it? I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care. I know that he did, and I think it's hilarious. That's what I'll go. I think it's hilarious. So whether he should have said it or not, don't know, don't care. He did. Stephen A., you're wrong. Period. End of story. But the bottom line is, what do you got? I saw a couple people in here. There's a couple people that said, leave his ass in the retirement home. I'm like, woo, woo. I love it. So I love it. I love it. So I just Aaron Rodgers is not a fit here. Aaron Rodgers is not a fit in Pittsburgh. The Steeler fan, first of all, the first time he misses mini camp or he says something stupid, blaming somebody, the Steeler fans will turn on him. That'll be the end of it. We would have to release him. We would have to release him. And if we're being honest, how much better does he actually make the Steelers? If you're going to say that he's better than Fields and Wilson, which again, I'm going to give you the grace to say that he's better than Wilson and Fields. I'll give you that grace. I don't know how much. It might only be by this much, but I'll give you that grace. Does that help the Steelers? I'm just not sure that it does. I'm not sure that it does. And it's definitely not fixing the problem of we got to find a guy long term. I mean, what? Rodgers is deciding even if he wants to play football next year. He doesn't even know. So if he's got to make that decision, I'm guessing he's only going to play it one more year at best. We don't need a 1-year fix for our quarterback problem. A 42-year-old with declining skills that's not a leader, that's got an attitude problem. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Mark Malone says that Rodgers is 10 times better of a QB of prime Justin Fields. No, he's not. No, he's not. So, but I get it if that's what you want to say. And you're right, Mr. Zay Curry. Leave Rodgers where he is. So, leave him right there. Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers is not a good quarterback anymore. Hey, look, I'll go the route and be the nice guy. Aaron Rodgers is just not a good fit in Pittsburgh. He wouldn't be a good fit here. See, I can be nice too. I can be nice too. So there we go. There we go. Moving on, people. Moving on. Oh, so we heard at the end of the year from Mike Tomlin himself, right out of his mouth. I'm going to read the quote. Said, change is coming. And that was after the loss. He took a couple days. Here's exactly what Mike Tomlin said at his season-ending press conference. For us as a collective, you know, the Tomlin speak, there's obviously a lot that happens this time of year. Certainly, there's change that comes with this time of year. Certainly, there's change that comes when you don't have the desired outcome. And so those are just the realities of the business. I'd imagine there's going to be some change going to be some things that change around here on a lot of levels. So there's Mike Tomlin telling us change is coming. That there's going to be some change here. My first thought is, where's the change? Like, when is this change happening? Now, change can't be, well, the players are going to change, because this is the National Football League. Players change every year. So telling us that, well, there's going to be some different players on the team, that's not anything that's really change related, because you know that every single year your roster isn't going to be the exact same. So saying something like that makes no sense. So that part isn't really change, having new people on the roster. Change, what I would think would be, is there going to be a change in the philosophy? Is there going to be a change as far as the coaching staff? You know, any change like that? Are we going to change how we draft people? Are we going to move up? Are we going to move back? Are we going to change some of the things we do organizationally? That kind of change, you know, to get us out of this mediocrity that we're in. Well, what happened? No different coordinators. The coordinators are the same. We can't really talk about free agency yet because it hasn't happened. So you got to give some grace there. Same thing with the draft. Draft hasn't happened. We don't know. The Steelers don't have a number one draft pick, or like the number one draft pick is what I mean to say. So, and there's plenty of time between now and the draft to make trades. Not to mention, if the Steelers at where they're drafted at number 21, that's a draft day type of move. Like, they're not going to come out in 3 weeks and say, well, the Steelers move back in the draft. Nah, you're not doing that. You know, so we're picking far enough back that that's a draft day move where the Steelers move back. Hell, we wouldn't even find out about that move until the Steelers were actually on the clock. Like 5 picks before that, you're not going to hear about the Steelers moving back. Now, if they move up, that's something different. But that's a draft day move. So we got some time before that. But okay, so what else is changing? Like, did we change philosophy? Well, maybe they're not going to tell us. They're pretty transparent when it comes to that. The owner's been transparent. So what change are we talking about? The defensive core or the defensive secondary coach changing. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't qualify as change to me. Like, that doesn't move the needle. Like, you had one guy as a secondary coach. Now you have another guy. That's not change. That's basically saying the guy that we had there before, we let his contract run out, which basically means we fired him, and we brought another guy in because we didn't think the last guy was good enough. Okay, great. But how is he going to affect what you do as far as a defensive philosophy? Like, is he going to come up with some different ideas in the secondary? I doubt that, because the guy coached in Pittsburgh before. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick, he was the safeties coach, and Minkah Fitzpatrick had his best season under him. And he loved it in Pittsburgh so much that he decided to go be the safeties coach with the Raiders. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I just, it's weird to me. It's weird to me what's going on. It's weird to me. We haven't seen any change. And maybe I'm asking too early. You know, today is February 13th, and maybe I'm expecting things. I just thought, my first thought was when he said that, okay, he realizes it, we got to get a different O-line coach. Well, that didn't happen. You know what? Okay, he gets it. He's got to get a fresh mind in here as far as the defense. Even though Tomlin is the one who runs the actual defense, maybe he wants to take on that CEO role and let somebody else actually come in and run the defense. That didn't happen. Or maybe he was going to let Terrell Austin run the defense the way that Terrell Austin really wants to run the defense. Because Terrell Austin is just a puppet, a figurehead, so to speak, because this is not how Terrell Austin, this is not where he's from. The sitting back in the zone. Terrell Austin's about bringing pressure, and a lot of it. Steelers got away from that. So, but that's still yet to be determined. We'll find out a lot about that. We'll see. But from where I'm standing, there just hasn't been a whole lot of change as of yet. And again, maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. Maybe I'm attacking it way too early and saying, come on, Mike Tomlin, make some change. Do something. But the places where I thought that they could make some real change, because changing your offensive line coach, that's real change. Changing the secondary coach, granted, they're important. I don't want to act like a secondary coach isn't important. But the offensive line struggled and has struggled. And maybe you could say, well, the players haven't been very good. Okay. But when does the offensive line coach, when is it his responsibility to develop some people and get those guys better? At some point, you got to be able to do that. And if you can't, you got to get somebody in there who can. It can't just always be, well, the players suck. Well, then, did you make any changes to the scouting department? The player personnel department? Did you make any changes there? Because if they're constantly bringing in players that aren't any good, there needs to be a change. You know what I'm saying? Something has to give. It can't just be the same stuff. And that's where we get sideways. That's where we always get sideways. So is that we're like, hey, man, if it's not working, do something else. Steeler fans, we're smart people. It's like, just do something else. This isn't working. But we don't. We don't. My man, Matt M. Sparks says Tomlin is just a figurehead that needs good coaches around. I mean, maybe. But don't all coaches need good coaches around them? I think all coaches need good coaches around them. So, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So, saying you got the Steelers season didn't just end a week ago. So, I'm sorry. The Steelers season didn't end a week ago. I mean, if it did, that would be one thing. But so there's plenty of things that we could have done. Changes are happening. How do you know? What changes is that? But yeah, the Steelers season didn't just end a week ago. There have been plenty of guys on coaching staff that have moved around. Plenty. That didn't happen in Pittsburgh. For instance, a change that could have happened, the Steelers could say we need an offense and a defensive analyst. Did we do that? No. A passing game coordinator? No. You know, plenty of things that could happen that haven't happened. So, and again, maybe I'm too early as far as the personnel changes. I get that. But as far as real change within the coaching staff to get different ideas, fresh ideas, none of that happened. And to me, it's disappointing. And unless they change philosophies, if Mike Tomlin says, okay, finally, what I was trying to do isn't working, we've got to do this differently. If that happens, I'm going to be great because y'all know what I've always said. I like Tomlin. I think Tomlin could stay in Pittsburgh for as long as he wants, as long as he changes his philosophy on how to win football games. As long as he just makes that change, then stay. But if he won't make the change, then what's the point? What's the point? So, we'll see. We'll see. And we'll try to get something done. We'll try to get something done, man. I appreciate y'all. Thank you guys again. You want to help support the channel, remember to like, follow, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want your question, comment, or rant up and you want to help support the channel, super chats are wide open. So if you want to do that, we absolutely would appreciate it. Let's move on. Whoo! Trevor Lawrence. Reports out there that the Steelers are looking to trade for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Don't know how you feel about it. Me personally, well, let's not talk about that yet. Let's break down what the Steelers would have to do to get Trevor Lawrence. First off, they're talking about you'd have to take on his contract. His contract kicked in. You have to take on his contract. So there's that. All the money that you would have to pay him. So, which could be brutal. Let's just be honest. It's over $50 million that you're going to have to pay Trevor Lawrence. Okay? So there's that. Now, granted, the way that his contract and most of these contracts are structured, I'm sure his cap hit is probably like 37, 38, something of that nature. But either way, you're going to have to pay him. That's the first thing. Second thing is, what has he actually done that says, oh, yeah, he's the answer in Pittsburgh? That you would say, you know what? Let's get Trevor Lawrence. I think he would be great. He'd be the Steelers' quarterback of the future. Like, what's he done? Because he's got a losing record. And I get it. He's won a playoff game. He has done that, and he led the comeback. Now, he was part of the problem on why the Jags got behind in that playoff game, but he led them back. Give him credit. Been injured, got injured this year. Other than that 1 year, he hasn't been great, but they gave him a new deal. I personally, I'll just put this out there. There's no way that you bring in Trevor Lawrence as a Pittsburgh Steeler. There's just absolutely no way. And look, maybe this is just people putting this out there because it's February 12th or 13th and there ain't a whole lot to talk about. Fine. I'm good. Let's bring it up. But there's absolutely no way the Pittsburgh Steelers bring in Trevor Lawrence, man. I mean, who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? You got to pay. First off, what the supposed asking price is a first and a second round pick this year. Trevor Lawrence is worth a first and a second round pick. Is that what you're telling me? Number one, you got to take on that contract that is a bad contract. Let's be honest. Not only we got to take that on, and we got to give you a first and a second round draft pick. Ain't no way. There ain't no damn way. There ain't no way. So there ain't no way. I mean, Sunshine is not the guy. He's not the guy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not for us. Now you might say, well, if it's a difference between and again, I'll give you some grace here. Trevor Lawrence is better than Justin Fields. It's not a lot, but he's better. He's better. He's a better thrower of the football, reads the defense a little bit better decision maker. I'll give you that he's a little better. But do we want a little bit better and then have to pay him all that kind of money and give up that kind of draft capital? I mean, let's just say the Steelers did that. Let's just say they decided that, you know what? We're going to get Trevor Lawrence. Okay. So you got to pay him all that money. So that cuts down on the free agency dollars that you have available to you this offseason. Number two, you gave up a first and a second round draft pick. So you can't address wide receiver or D-line in the first two rounds. Your first pick is in the third round of the draft. So you would have to address wide receiver and defensive line in free agency. Now, there are some good wide receivers out there that you could possibly get. Okay. But the D-line free agency market isn't very good. Not to mention, the whole goal with the Pittsburgh Steelers is to get younger and more athletic on the defensive line. You see any of those guys out there that's available? Because I know I sure don't. I know I don't at all. I mean, so no. Mr. Dresden, appreciate you supporting the channel. He says audit everything. So, yeah, there'd be no way that you could do that. You're not getting any younger on the D-line. The Steelers are not a quarterback away. That's the problem here. This trade makes sense if your O-line is in place, if your wide receiver room is in place. You know, if you don't have so many holes on your team, this makes sense. Steelers are not a quarterback. Hey, we'll just plug in a decent quarterback and we're ready to roll. No. That is not the case. Steelers have holes everywhere. They're not one player away. They got to fix some stuff. And so trading the farm and then giving that guy a king's ransom just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. You know, Lawrence, you look at his numbers. How good are they? Like, seriously, how good are they? Is that enough for you to say? Yeah, first of all, why did Jacksonville, why did you give him this contract? I'm like, when are we going to own it? I'm asking you legitimately, chat, and I want you guys to answer me seriously. Like, when are owners going to fight back and stop giving mediocre quarterbacks all this money. Like, when are they going to say, yeah, I get it that it's your turn to get paid, but you haven't earned $50 million in this league. So if you don't want to sign for something that's reasonable because you're only good when other teams or when we can put good players around you, when are owners going to fight back and just say, I'll go back to the drawing board? So I'm just asking those types of questions, man, because owners, at some point, they got to fight back. And look, and this is coming from somebody who is never on the owner side. I am never on the owner side, ever. I mean, I am 100% in favor of the players on most things that make sense. But and this is outrageous. This is just outrageous. And again, they do it to somebody. They do it to some. Like, they made Baker Mayfield, they made him prove himself. And even then, they didn't give him $275 million. But I would be willing to say right this very second that the Jacksonville Jaguars would rather have Baker Mayfield as their quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence makes more than him. I mean, Baker Mayfield, the Arizona Cardinals would take Baker Mayfield as their quarterback right now over Kyler Murray. I mean, it's that kind of stuff is what I'm talking about. You know, so at some point, the owners have to push back. Like Dak Prescott making $60 million. Come on, man. What are we doing? Oh, it was his turn. Who cares? He hasn't earned it. Hey, we'll kick the can down the road. You can have this. You don't want it? Thank you for your services. We talk about the NFL being a cutthroat business. Well, then it needs to be cutthroat. So it needs to be cutthroat. But we'll see. We'll see. So we will see. But Trevor Lawrence is not the guy. Not for Pittsburgh. Not with what they would have to give up and with the amount of money that we'd have to pay him. Nope. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just not in that business. I'm not in the business of just throwing around money for mediocre players. It just doesn't. And maybe that's why the Steelers haven't done it. If there's one thing that you can say about Pittsburgh is that they first of all, were cheap, and we don't throw around money to mediocre guys in key positions, not that kind of money. So, which is why I don't believe they're going to pay Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson is going to want $35 million. And I'm thinking the Steelers are like, nope, you're not worth $35 million a year. I'm sorry. You didn't do enough to say, give me $35 million. No, we're not going to do it. Now, you could also say, well, the Steelers are just trying to penny pinch. But I say the Steelers go find something else, wherever that may be, and overpay for other free agents. I know it's a long shot, but overpay for T. Higgins. Go overpay there. Yinzer Joe brings up a great point. Says no owner wants to go back to the drawing board unless they have no choice. If star players are leaving, things are falling apart, and no one wants to play for your team, then I guess you'd think. But here's the thing. If you're just mediocre, what star player do you have that's leaving? Like, just because they're the quarterback doesn't make them the star player on the team. So why am I giving this guy who isn't the best player, who doesn't play great, why am I overpaying for that? And, I mean, I could get it if, you had a star on your hands. Is Trevor Lawrence a star? Like, he plays in the National Football League at the quarterback position, so I understand that. But is he a star? I mean, how many people? People know who Patrick Mahomes is, even people that don't follow football, that don't follow the Chiefs. I mean, that's what a star, in my opinion, is. Trevor Lawrence, not that. So, not that. But go pay for somebody. Go do something. And I get it, what you're talking about, M. Sparks. T. Higgins is brittle. I get it. I said that. Like, T. Higgins the last 2 years has played 12 games. So he's missed 5 games a year over the last 2 years. I totally understand. But doesn't he upgrade our room? Like, just say T. Higgins is only going to play 12 games for the Steelers. I would take that over what we currently have. And figure out the other 5 games? Absolutely. So sometimes the risk has to be worth the reward. Sometimes the risk has to be worth the reward. T. Higgins would make it worth the reward. He absolutely would. And there's some people that would make it worth the reward. The risk, should I say. Sometimes you just got to do it. So Devin brings up a good point. I'm of the belief that most QBs are system QBs. If a QB works in your system, keep him. But lots of teams, Browns, Broncos, etc., have proved that you can't force a QB into the wrong system. That's how most people are. And that's a problem that I have with coaching. Coaching used to be about, hey, I've got this player with a certain skill set. I'm going to develop my team and my system around that player and get the most that I can out of that player. The perfect example of that would be the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. They've got guys with certain skill sets that they have built their team around. Now, have they won a Super Bowl? Hell, you could even say Jalen Hurts is the perfect example. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl. They built a team that maximizes his ability. We got great receivers. We got an outstanding offensive line. We got an incredible running back. And he can make the plays. And he doesn't have to be the focal point of everything. And there you go. There you go. That's the difference. That's the difference. So, and Mark, you're right. The Browns have been drafting system QBs for 20 plus. Hell, the Browns have been trying to find a quarterback since they, I guess, restarted the franchise. What was that, 1996? Somewhere around there. They've been trying to find their quarterback since then. And quite frankly, the Browns are going to brown because they actually had the quarterback in Baker Mayfield. But he got hurt and he played hurt, so he played bad. And then they thought, we'll get rid of him. We'll upgrade with Deshaun Watson. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. So, but that's the difference, man. You gotta build from within, and Trevor Lawrence just wouldn't be the guy. Anything else y'all got on tap, man? I'm trying to read some of these comments here. Y'all were fighting for a little while. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Or keep fighting. Whatever works. One thing is the Steelers trainers. Russ got hurt doing something stupid. Looks like the defense for the past couple of seasons have run out of gas, says my man Jason Young. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason that Russell Wilson should have been pushing a sled as part of a conditioning test. Like, what? Huh? Oh, my God. Personally, I've never heard of that. A quarterback doing that. But whatever. Whatever, man. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Allie Howard, stay safe, my man. Appreciate you being in here today. So, Craig Lawson says we need to build a foundation around Fields. I mean, we got to do something. We'll see. It's all speculation right now. It's all speculation. But as far as what the Steelers need to do, Um, Trevor Lawrence is just not the guy. Trevor Lawrence is not the guy. So, Dresden, what? I just can't. I can't with you, my man. Commie co. You get way too political, Mr. Dresden. I'm sorry. We're just not doing that in here. We don't do that in here. So, time of possession was longer with Fields, saves defense. You're right on that, Mel. Time of possession was longer. We were better in the red zone. But seeing the field was not Justin Fields' strength, and making quick decisions or making decisions wasn't his strength either. So, Dresden, don't tell me what to do. So, let's do that. Don't tell me what to do. But yeah, Fields was great for a while. He was good. I wouldn't say great. Fields was okay. He was okay. So, and Travis brings up a point here. I'll bring it up. He says, how is Trevor not the guy? 25-year-old superstar could just need a new change of scenery. Putting it with our defense could easily boost our team. First of all, Travis, to call Trevor Lawrence a superstar is grossly, and I'll just be nice and say grossly overestimating his abilities. Okay? So he is not a superstar. That would be number one. Okay? Number two, you're right about the change of scenery. I don't disagree. But paying him all that money to come here when he's shown that he's mediocre, why would you want to do that and give up the draft picks that you would have to give up? A first and a second round pick to bring him here when the Steelers have holes all over the place? No, I'm sorry. That's not the right move. That's not the right move. So that's not the right move. I respect your opinion, but the Steelers can't do that. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Steelers shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. So that's the difference. Steelers shouldn't do that. First and a second round, have to pay him $50 million a year? No. So, and yeah, we do have the money to fix a lot of the holes in free agency. We have the money to fix a lot of the holes in free agency. So, Mel brings up a great point. Fields was serviceable and coachable. It's our coach's job. Yes, it is. It's absolutely our coach's job to coach him up. Let's go and see what we got. My whole thing with Fields is, if you weren't going to give him an opportunity and see what he had, why did you bring him here? Like, what was the point? Like, why did you need Justin Fields to be your backup quarterback? That just didn't make sense to me. So, and I think, and not enough people are saying this out loud, our defense was grossly overrated this year. You kept hearing people on TV and during telecast, the Steelers defense is a championship defense. Huh? I'm sorry. When did a championship defense have mediocre cornerback play? Like, where have you ever heard of, oh man, this defense is just championship caliber, but their cornerbacks are average? Like, when did that happen? When has that been the case? I mean, like, seriously, when have you heard of a team saying they have a championship defense, but the corners are just okay? Never. So, Mark Malone, I'd bring Haley back as offensive coordinator too, but Tomlin's not going to do that because Haley challenges him. So, he challenges him. So, Dresden says, have you any experience with Western PA? What kind of experience are we talking about? And what difference does that make? So, defense by reputation, maybe 10 years ago. Yes, there it is, Mr. Jason Young. 10 years ago, the Steelers had a championship defense. They had a championship defense 10 years ago. But to try to say that the Steelers have a championship defense as of now, yeah, I don't even know what that meant because that wasn't the case. That wasn't true. So that wasn't true. And people are talking, and I'll bring this up, talk about it, Mr. Sparks. Is I like Howard. He might be a decent prospect for the future. Will Howard? Look, I got some experience with Will Howard because you guys know I went to Kansas State, so I follow them. Heck, I do a podcast with them. But Will Howard is okay. But Will Howard is not a guy that you're going to say, you know what, in 2 or 3 years, man, Will Howard could just be a great starting quarterback in the National Football League. That's not who Will Howard is. That's not. Was Will Howard great this year at Ohio State? The answer to that is no. And he had immense talent around him. Was he good? Yes, he was. Was he serviceable? Yes, he was. But he wasn't like the difference. Like you could have put in probably 25 other quarterbacks around the country and they could have done what Will Howard did. So I don't want to just say and say that Will Howard didn't do anything, but I'm not going to go out and say that he is the answer. I got some experience with him. I like him as a prospect, but I like him as a backup, not to be my starter in 2 or 3 years. So Yinzer Joe says it all. That you can't have a good defense all season long where they're on the field more than the offense. Where was the offense the last 6 games? Defense was tired. I grant you that. Grant you that. You know, when teams are just running the football down the defense's throat because the defense is gassed. I mean, complementary football is one of the most underrated aspects of football that there is. When you don't have a team that plays complementary football, you're not very good. In the last 6 games, the Steelers didn't do that, and they weren't very good. Having said that, the defense didn't hold up their part too. So they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. So they got to hold up their end of the bargain. When they do, we'll see. They just, I mean, the corners weren't great. They weren't great. And you just can't have a good defense when your corners aren't very good. Dresden says, what's your take on Farmer from FSU? You know, I've heard some good stuff about him. I had to do a little bit more of a deep dive on him. So I've heard good things. And we definitely need defensive line help. So I have heard good stuff. But they were such a disaster. It's hard to get a read. And again, I'm not a professional scout. So it's hard to get a read when their team is such a disaster all over the football field. From coach on down. From coach on down. So, but yeah, that has been our story for years. The offense dragging the defense, suffering. That's why when we brought up on the big show, the question was, if we could have a top 10 or a top 5 offense, but our defense was in the bottom 5, would you take that? And I was like, yeah. Because I'm just tired of, hey, we can't get the 15, we can't get the 20 points, and we're going to lose. I'm tired of it. I'd rather take my chances of us trying to win a shootout than us struggling to try to win, 17-14. And if the team gets 21 points, we may not be able to get there. I'm done with those days. I know I hated it when we had the killer bees and we had absolutely no defense. I didn't like it. But at least we had a chance because you know what? Maybe we can get the ball last and we can go score. That was my philosophy. That was my philosophy. So we're going to shut this one down today, man. We're going to shut it down. I appreciate all y'all being in here. Look, first things first, thank you guys for all the support. We appreciate it. Our series is out, My Position by Position. So make sure you guys go to Steelers Almighty and check that out. We're breaking down each position on what the Steelers did in 2024, what they should do in 2025, who should or shouldn't come back. We're breaking it down by position. You guys will like it. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you guys go and check that out. Memberships are still available. So make sure if you're not a member and you want to get membership content, which is a lot of it, you guys make sure you become a member. Appreciate your support there. Other than that, man, that's it. Town Hall, we'll do a town hall tomorrow, maybe a little later in the day, maybe around 2:00 tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But if not, I will catch you guys soon, man. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And aloha.